What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. I got a new project, so check it out. I got a go-kart, and this one I got for only $100. It has a Subaru engine on it. It's a 126cc engine, and this go-kart is really slow. And I think part of that is the carburetor is probably gummed up. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to take a top speed run on acceleration tests, and then we're going to clean up the carburetor, do the same thing. And then after that, I got a live axle kit from GoPowersports.com, and we're going to be installing that on this go-kart. We also got a torque converter, which we're going to be putting on, and also I can show you exactly why I'm switching to a torque converter and a live axle. And one reason is because as soon as you go on any type of dirt, you kind of just stop because this thing's really weak. And another thing about this go-kart is the engine. It takes a long time and it takes quite a few pulls just to get it running. So hopefully after we clean the carburetor, that will improve. So we're gonna go ahead and start it and go for the top speed run. Alright, so literally, I'm taking this go-kart down the street, and when I go to turn around, it just starts vibrating, and then I hit the gas pedal, it wouldn't go anywhere. So it's got some issues, let me tell you that. So I had to push it all the way back, and what was the top speed? Top speed was only 19.2 miles per hour. And if you ask me, that's pretty slow. And acceleration, I mean, you guys can tell from the video, as soon as I turned onto the street, literally that was me flooring it, so it's super slow. I'm not sure why it stopped working. I think the clutch is worn out, and that's why I'm gonna put a torque converter on it and a live axle. And I think the carburetor definitely has something to do with it, especially with the starting. We're just gonna go ahead and take the carburetor off. So the bowl isn't that dirty. It doesn't look too dirty underneath the carburetor here, but we're gonna open up the rest of it and see what it looks like. Alright, so we're just going to hook up the fuel line to the carburetor, and then we can hook up the throttle and bolt it all up. Alright, so I just finished putting the carburetor back together. It wasn't that dirty, but I think the jets were plugged up. So now I'm going to see if it starts in fewer pulls, and then we can take an acceleration test and see if the top speed changed. Alright, so we're going to start the acceleration test in 3, 2, 1. So we just took it out for its acceleration test and top speed, and the top speed didn't change at all. It's just stuck around 19, but it did start in fewer pulls when I tried it in the backyard. which was nice, and that's pretty much what I was aiming for when I cleaned out the carburetor. Alright, so as you can see, going over just a little bit of dirt and grass, this engine has just about 0 torque. So we're going to go ahead and swap the live axle on here with the torque converter, and it should make a big difference. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Alright, so this is the box with all the parts in it, and then here is the 54-inch long live axle. So we're going to cut this box open and see what we got. Alright, we got our parts list. We got some stickers. Alright. So this right here is the Comet TAV 30 series torque converter. That's going to be going on the engine. We have one of the 2 wheels. We have the bearing kit. We have the other wheel. Holy cow. These tires are a lot bigger in person than I thought. These are, I believe, 18-inch tall tires. So we're going to be putting these on the rear end of the Go-Kart, which is going to be awesome. And we have the mechanical brake. You need to be able to stop with the drum brake. It's a lot harder to stop. So we got a mechanical one. And we got the other big tire. Let me show you. Take a look at the treads on this thing. I mean, they're just like huge treads. So we're gonna go ahead and start by taking off the old jack shaft on the go-kart, and then we can weld on the mounts for the live axle, and then we can put it on. Alright, there is the shaft. In the bottom here, we are just left with the brake drum and the old sprocket. And now, all we gotta do is pop out these bearings right here. And then we are going to drain the oil in the engine, take out this plastic dish. We're probably just gonna go ahead and chop this off, and we can weld on the mounts for the bearings. Alright, so I finished cutting off all the metal, and if you look underneath, I ground it down. We're going to go ahead and put the tires together, and then we'll be able to set the axle up here and see what it looks like. Just set there to see what it looks like, and now I'm gonna go ahead and weld on the mounts for the bearings right under here and right under here. Alright, so I just put oil in the engine, and now we're going to mount on the torque converter. And the first step is just using 4 of the screws that are supplied to screw this plate here onto the engine. Alright, so the plate here is all mounted up, and now we're going to put on the spacers for the torque converter, and then we put on the back plate here, brass idle ring, and then we're going to put the belt on. And then the clutch mechanism goes on. And then the outer cover. And then all we gotta do is just bolt it up. A lock collar here. And then we have our sprocket with a lock collar on both sides. The other one for it is on this side. It's right there. So we got one, we got the sprocket, another. And then we have our brake rotor. And then we have another little lock collar here. So I figured the brake rotor is going to go right here. And then for the mechanical part of it, right about here. And I'm going to cut this piece of angle iron. And it's just going to kind of sit up here like that. So we're going to have a piece of angle iron on top of the mount there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that, and then we can weld it up. Alright, so I made this little rod here. I welded it up, put the little piece here which is going to hold on to the brake. So I'm going to go ahead and just grind these welds down a bit, and then we'll be able to install it, and then we can cut the size out for the chain that goes from the torque converter to the sprocket, finish welding up this mount here for the brake, and then we'll be able to install the tires, and that should be just about it. Alright, so everything is now hooked up. The chain, the brakes, all the lock collars are tightened down. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the tires on. Alright, so before we take it out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the wheels off right here and pull them out a bit. Just because if you look at the rear end and you look at the front, the rear end's a lot wider, and that's going to be really hard to turn. So I'm just going to go ahead and chop the wheels off, pull them out a bit, and extend the tie rods. other thing I did, I put this supporting bar here just so if anything hits the wheel, it's not just going to bend that off. And I also did that on the other side. Alright, so there we go. The go-kart is completely finished. Now it's actually off-road capable because before I try and go across just my front lawn or my backyard and then just creep along. The torque converter made a big difference. The top speed is the same, but in the future we might switch this engine out for like a Predator or something. And in the front here, we extended the spindles and raised the front end up a bit since the rear was a bit higher. And then for the back, we have a live axle and big tires. So if we ever want to go off-road, it's a lot more capable now than it was before. So yeah, that's the end of today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, share it, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.